King John ascended the English throne in 1199, following the death of his brother Richard the Lionheart. His rise to power was not without its challenges, as he inherited a kingdom fraught with political instability and external threats. But his reign was marked by conflict from the outset. Almost immediately, John found himself embroiled in a series of military campaigns, both to defend his territories in France and to quell internal dissent within England. His strained relationships with the English nobles and the church set the stage for a tumultuous rule. The nobles, who had grown accustomed to a certain degree of autonomy under previous monarchs, were particularly resistant to John's attempts to assert royal authority. John faced opposition from powerful barons who resented his attempts to centralize power. These barons were not just influential landowners, they were also military leaders whose support was crucial for maintaining the kingdom's stability. He also clashed with the church, particularly over the appointment of a new Archbishop of Canterbury. This conflict escalated to the point where Pope Innocent III excommunicated John, a severe blow to his legitimacy as a ruler. John's personality further exacerbated these tensions. Known for his volatile temper and impulsive decisions, he often alienated those who might have been his allies. He was known for his cruelty, vindictiveness, and lack of trustworthiness. Stories of his harsh punishments and ruthless tactics spread, further damaging his reputation. These qualities alienated many who might have otherwise supported him. Even those who initially backed his claim to the throne began to distance themselves, fearing retribution or betrayal. His early years on the throne revealed a pattern of disregard for established norms and a willingness to alienate powerful factions. John frequently bypassed traditional channels of governance, issuing decrees that undermined the authority of local lords and officials. Moreover, John's personal life was marked by scandal and controversy. His numerous affairs and the resulting illegitimate children were a source of gossip and further eroded his standing among the nobility. His marriage to Isabella of Angoulême, while politically advantageous, angered powerful French nobles. Isabella had been betrothed to another noble, and John's actions were seen as a blatant disregard for diplomatic protocols. John's reputation as a tyrant and his inability to maintain strong alliances created a climate of distrust and resentment that would plague his reign. His heavy taxation and arbitrary justice system only added to the growing discontent. In these early years, the seeds of rebellion were sown. Discontent among the barons grew, and whispers of revolt began to circulate in the halls of power. John's conflicts with the nobles and the church, combined with his personal failings, created a volatile political landscape. The kingdom was rife with tension, and it seemed only a matter of time before these simmering disputes would erupt into open conflict. The stage was set for a showdown between the king and his subjects. As John continued to alienate those around him, the likelihood of a major confrontation grew ever more certain, setting the scene for one of the most turbulent periods in English history. John's reign was marked by a series of military disasters, most notably the loss of Normandy in 1204. This event was a turning point in John's rule, casting a long shadow over his reign and altering the course of English history. This loss had a profound impact on England's standing in France and on John's reputation as a military leader. The defeat was not just a territorial loss, but a significant blow to the morale and prestige of the English crown. Normandy, a region in northern France, had been under English control since the Norman conquest of 1066. This region was not only a symbol of English power, but also a vital link to the continent, providing economic and military advantages. The loss of Normandy was a major blow to English prestige and significantly weakened John's position. It marked the beginning of a series of setbacks that would plague his reign and undermine his authority. It also had significant economic consequences as England lost control of a wealthy and strategically important territory. Normandy's rich farmlands and bustling towns had been a source of revenue and resources for the English crown. The loss was attributed to John's military incompetence and his failure to provide adequate support to his forces in France. His inability to secure reinforcements and supplies for his troops led to a demoralizing defeat. John's military failures were not limited to France. His reign was marred by a series of conflicts and uprisings that further eroded his power and credibility. He also faced rebellions in Wales and Ireland. These regions, already difficult to govern, became hotbeds of resistance against John's rule, further stretching his resources and military capabilities. These uprisings further drained the royal treasury and demonstrated John's inability to maintain control over his own territories. The constant need for funds to suppress these rebellions led to heavy taxation, which in turn fueled more discontent. His reign was characterized by constant warfare and instability, which took a heavy toll on the English people. The frequent conflicts devastated the countryside, disrupted trade, and caused widespread suffering among the population. The loss of Normandy and John's other military defeats had far-reaching consequences. They not only weakened his authority, but also emboldened his enemies, both within and outside of England. They weakened his authority, damaged the English economy, and contributed to the growing unrest among the English nobility. The economic strain and political instability created a fertile ground for rebellion and dissent. These failures set the stage for the baronial revolts that would challenge John's rule and ultimately lead to the signing of the Magna Carta. This historic document, forced upon John by his rebellious barons, would lay the foundation for constitutional governance in England, marking the beginning of a new era in English history. John's constant need for money to fund his wars and lavish lifestyle led to oppressive taxation and financial exploitation of his subjects. His insatiable desire for wealth knew no bounds, and he was relentless in his pursuit of funds, often resorting to extreme measures to fill his coffers. He imposed heavy taxes on the English people, often without the consent of the barons, which was a violation of feudal customs. This disregard for the established norms and traditions of governance created a rift between the king and his barons, who felt increasingly marginalized and powerless. John's insatiable greed earned him the nickname John Lackland, as he was seen as constantly demanding more from his people. His reputation for avarice spread far and wide, and his subjects began to view him with disdain and mistrust. To raise funds, John resorted to unscrupulous methods, such as selling royal offices and privileges to the highest bidder. This practice not only undermined the integrity of the royal administration, but also led to widespread corruption, as those who purchased these positions sought to recoup their investments through any means necessary. He exploited legal loopholes to extract money from his subjects, often imprisoning wealthy individuals on trumped-up charges until they paid exorbitant ransoms. This tactic of using the law as a tool for extortion created an atmosphere of fear and insecurity among the wealthy, who never knew when they might be targeted next. John's disregard for the rule of law and his willingness to exploit his people for financial gain further alienated the barons and fueled their resentment. The barons, who were once loyal supporters of the crown, began to see John as a tyrant who cared only for his own enrichment. John's financial policies had a devastating impact on the English economy. The heavy taxes and arbitrary levies stifled economic activity, leading to widespread hardship and suffering among the common people. The heavy taxes placed a burden on merchants, farmers, and the common people, hindering economic growth. Many merchants found it difficult to conduct business, and farmers struggled to make ends meet, leading to a decline in agricultural productivity. His arbitrary and unjust methods of raising revenue created a climate of fear and uncertainty, discouraging investment and trade. The constant threat of new taxes and levies made it difficult for businesses to plan for the future, and many traders chose to leave the kingdom in search of more stable environments. John's financial oppression was not just about raising money, it was about consolidating his power. By controlling the kingdom's finances, he sought to strengthen his position and weaken that of the barons, ensuring that they remained dependent on his favor. By controlling the kingdom's finances, he sought to strengthen his position and weaken that of the barons. This centralization of power allowed John to exert greater control over the nobility, but it also sowed the seeds of rebellion, as the barons chafed under his autocratic rule. His actions, however, had the opposite effect, uniting the barons against him and ultimately leading to their rebellion. The barons, driven to desperation by John's relentless exploitation, banded together to challenge his authority, setting the stage for a conflict that would reshape the kingdom.